We are 1 week away from the inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. What will his agenda entail when he takes office, and how soon can we expect Trump to deliver on his campaign promises? At day one assumes. For more, let's bring in Charles Myers, chairman and founder of Signum Global. Charles, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, just off the top here, you're going to be talking about so-called budget reconciliation bills. Can you just explain reconciliation? Give us a quick 101.
Yeah, budget reconciliation is a congressional vehicle through which you can get legislation passed with a simple majority in both chambers. The only requirement of a reconciliation bill is it has to be spending or revenue related, but as long as it is, you can get it done with a simple majority.
All right, so you're telling us that the Republicans are debating right now, do we come out with two reconciliation bills, or I guess they're called RCs sometimes, or one bill? So run us through the two-pronged approach, if you could, please.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of tension between the House and the Senate leadership at the moment. Speaker Johnson in the House wants to do everything in one big bill by April. And part of that is because there's such a slim majority, it's a very small Republican majority in the House. And he's worried about, I think, if you split it into two bills, you're going to make the second bill much harder to get done. So, and whereas in the Senate, they want to do two separate bills, they want to deal with border and some other spending issues initially, and punt the tax cuts and some other items into the second bill. So that's the difference at the moment. We think it'll probably be an attempt at one large bill, which ultimately gets broken down into two bills. And
I understand that Donald Trump prefers the one bill. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You know, they're going to have about a three-seat majority in the House. They're going to need to try to get as much done as quickly as possible. The one bill would help achieve that.
And can you give us some flavor onto what the real focus is going to be? Border security, presumably tariffs, and some other items. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so we don't expect tariffs to be in the reconciliation bill. We don't expect tariffs to go to Congress at all, or the president to go to Congress on tariffs. He's going to want to keep, I think, the authority around trade policy within the White House. The president can put tariffs on. The main reason he probably doesn't want to go to Congress is to take any tariffs off. He would have to go back to Congress and therefore cede the authority. So,
right, sorry, not to interrupt, Charles. I misspoke. I meant tax cuts, not tariffs. If that helps you.
No problem. No problem. So on the tax cuts, absolutely. So here's the day one agenda, a lot of which will end up in this reconciliation bill. Extension of the Trump tax cuts that expire this year. We think all of them will be extended, and we might even get some SALT relief. The SALT cap may be doubled. And then possibly a new corporate tax cut from 21. He ran on 21 to 15, maybe 21 to 18 or 19 as a compromise. That's a big part of the day one agenda and part of this bill. On top of that, additional funding for border security, as well as funding to help with the larger amount of deportations that are coming, will also be in the bill. And then I think there could be a repeal of parts of the Inflation Reduction Act in the bill to help pay for it. So it's going to be a pretty comprehensive bill and reflective of the day one agenda. The one thing that will not be in the bill are tariffs, also day one agenda, but it'll be done separately by the executive.
And not to get too inside politics and budgets, you mentioned SALT. Can you explain what that is again, please?
Yeah, I mean, the state and local tax deduction, it really was something that in the first round of Trump tax cuts under Trump 1 really penalized Democratic states like New York, California, et cetera. And at the moment, you're only allowed to deduct up to $10,000 of any state and local things like your mortgage, for example, or state and local taxes. The intent in this, and because, again, President Trump will need as many Republican votes as possible, including from New York and California, there's an attempt to double the cap from $10,000 to $20,000 that you can deduct.
All right, Charles. So Donald Trump says he favors getting rid of the debt ceiling entirely. How does the debt ceiling factor into all of this?
Yeah, the debt ceiling is likely to be included in the bill as well. You know, the debt ceiling is not going to be an issue this time. The only time it really is an issue at all, meaning that we get past, the X date and into extraordinary measures is when the Republicans are in the minority. The Democrats are not going to use the debt ceiling as leverage or to hold up any legislation. I think it will. I don't think it's going to be scrapped altogether. I think the debt ceiling will be suspended, lifted and suspended to a future date, but it will not be a standoff, and it will not be market sensitive or market. It will not be a market issue.
Now, we know that President-elect Trump has introduced this DOGE committee, Department of Government Efficiency, led by Mr. Musk and Mr. Ramaswamy. Mike Johnson has said, we're going to try to cut $2.5 trillion from the deficit. How realistic or unrealistic is that? What do you ultimately expect in terms of any spending cuts?
Yeah, look, I think anytime you have any kind of body group, council, anything set up to help identify and tackle government waste, it's a good thing. And there's plenty of waste in the U.S. government. They're not going to find $2 trillion plus of cost savings, but I think maybe they'll find $500 billion. Areas that are, really easy wins, I think, are the defense procurement process. There's a fair amount of waste and fraud. And then there's other government programs that have been, in existence since the 1960s that really don't serve any purpose and keep getting funded. So I think when you look at some of these easy wins or low-hanging fruit, I think they'll probably find about $500 billion of cost savings over the next 4 years. It's not going to be $2 trillion.